A university tested dried beans that had been stored for 30 years. A taste panel still rated them acceptable to eat. 30 years. No freezer, no canner, just a jar on a shelf. And yet, every fall, most gardeners are still sweating over boiling water, racing to save food before it rots. That is not a preservation problem. That is a planting problem. So I pulled together 8 vegetables that basically preserve themselves for months or years. One sits in frozen ground all winter and gets sweeter. Another gets better the longer you ignore it. Drop your zone below, because Zone 4 and Zone 9 are not playing the same game. Number 1. Blue Hubbard Squash. 5 months on a shelf, sweeter every week. Most vegetables start dying the second you pick them. This one does the opposite. It actually gets sweeter sitting on your shelf. Blue Hubbard Squash stores for 5 to 6 months after harvest. You cure it in the sun for 7 to 10 days and set it on a shelf. That is the entire process. Here's the part nobody puts on the label. The squash you eat in January is better than the one you could have eaten in September. Inside that thick blue-gray rind, starches are slowly breaking down into sugars. The rind seals moisture in and keeps bacteria out. The fruit does not stop. It is still alive on your shelf, quietly ripening. By midwinter, the flesh is denser, sweeter, and richer than the day you picked it. So do not cut it early. Cure it whole, keep the rind intact, and let time do the work. I ran the numbers on this, and the answer was obvious. One vine produces 3 to 5 fruits. Each one weighs 12 to 15 pounds. That is 40 to 75 pounds of food from a single plant, sitting in your closet until March. Oregon State Extension confirms Hubbard types store up to 6 months under the right conditions. Compare that to a zucchini that rots in a week on your counter. You walk into your kitchen in February. Snow outside, nothing growing. You grab a Blue Hubbard off the shelf, cut it open, and the flesh inside is deeper orange and sweeter than anything at the grocery store. That squash has been sitting there since September. Just a shelf and 5 months of patience. Here is exactly what to do. Plant Blue Hubbard in full sun, zone 3 to 10, with 6 to 8 feet between hills. It needs 100 to 110 days to maturity. After harvest, cure in the sun for 7 to 10 days, or indoors at 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit if the weather is wet. Store at 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. A cool closet, basement, or garage works. Check monthly for soft spots and use those first. Fair warning, this plant needs space. If you only have a container garden or a small raised bed, Hubbard is not the right pick for you. But stay with me, because the next entry on this list does the same job in half the space. 5 months of food from one vine, and it costs you nothing but a shelf. Number 2. Black turtle beans. Dry on the vine, good for years in a jar. A 25-foot row of beans. One afternoon of shelling, and you just made enough protein to last your family the entire winter. Black turtle beans dry right on the vine. You leave the pods on the plant until they turn brown and papery. Shake one. If the beans rattle inside, they are done. Pull them off, shell them into a mason jar, and put the lid on. That is the entire preservation process. You skip the boiling water, the pressure gauge, all of it. This is where it gets interesting. Utah State University tested pinto beans that had been stored for 30 years. 30 years in a jar. A consumer taste panel still rated them acceptable. For everyday eating, dried beans in mason jars keep 1 to 5 years at full quality. And the National Center for Home Food Preservation lists vine drying as an approved method. You are not cutting corners here. You are doing it the way people have done it for centuries. Here's what nobody is putting together. When the pod dries on the vine, moisture drops below 10%. Bacteria and mold cannot survive at that level. The bean seals itself inside a hard coat. As long as you keep it dry, it stays dormant, alive but asleep, for years. Your only job is keeping the beans dry. That is why this works with nothing but a jar and a dry shelf. If you have ever spent a Sunday afternoon pressure canning green beans, sweating over a hot stove, watching the dial, waiting for the timer, you already know the pain. Dried beans, skip all of that. The vine does the work. You just show up at the end. Now think about what you are spending right now. Beans do not need fertilizer. They fix their own nitrogen, so they feed your soil while they feed you. 1 pound of seed plants a 25-foot row. That row yields roughly 3 to 5 pounds of dried beans. Zone 3 to 10, bush type. Direct sow after last frost when soil hits 60 degrees. Space them 4 to 6 inches apart with 18 to 24 inches between rows. 80 to 100 days from seed to harvest. After shelling, freeze the beans for 48 hours to kill any weevil eggs. Then store in mason jars at room temperature. One honest note. Dried beans need dry weather at the tail end of the season. If you garden in the Pacific Northwest, or anywhere with a wet fall, your pods may mold before they finish drying. Pull the whole plant and hang it upside down indoors to finish. That solves it. No canner, no freezer, no electricity. Just a jar on a shelf that feeds you for years. Number 3. Enchilium Red Garlic. Plant it once, never buy garlic again. Every bulb of garlic you plant gives you back 8 to 10 cloves. Every clove you replant gives you back another full bulb. Do that math for 3 years. Softneck garlic stores 9 to 12 months after a proper cure. That is close to a full year of garlic from one planting. Silverskin types push the longest, but for most home gardeners, the sweet spot is a variety called Enchilium Red. Big cloves, rich flavor, and it holds for 8 to 10 months. Just cure it right and keep it dry. This is the detail most people skip right past. Garlic is the only vegetable that multiplies itself and preserves itself. You buy 1 bag of seed garlic in year 1. After that, you save your biggest cloves and replant them every fall. Year 2 costs you nothing. Year 3 costs you nothing. For the money, nothing else comes close. One gardener planted 50 cloves of Enchilium Red in October, harvested 50 full bulbs the following July, had garlic on hand through the next May. Total cost after year 1? 0. Your setup can do the same thing with a 4x4 raised bed. The whole process takes about 5 minutes of actual work. Plant Enchilium Red in mid-October to mid-November, zone 5 to 9. Push each clove 2 inches deep, 6 inches apart, in rows 12 inches apart. Harvest when 40 to 50% of the leaves have browned, usually around mid-July. Hang the bulbs in a dry, shaded spot with good airflow for 2 to 4 weeks. Do not wash them before curing. After that, trim the roots, cut the stems, and store in paper bags or mesh at 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. No fridge needed. Save your largest cloves for replanting in fall. Plant it once, eat it all year, replant for free. That is the closest thing to a money printer in your garden. If you are tired of spending every September weekend over a hot canner and you want to grow smarter instead of harder, subscribe every week. Same kind of research, same level of detail. Free. Number 4. Waltham Butternut, the storage squash that fits any garden. If Blue Hubbard is the heavyweight, Butternut is the one that fits in every garden and every kitchen. Waltham Butternut stores 3 to 6 months after curing. It is smaller than Hubbard, easier to handle, and shows up in more recipes. I almost skipped Butternut for this list because everyone already knows it. But then I looked at one detail most people miss. Butternut has harder stems than almost any other squash variety. Squash vine borers, the pest that kills more backyard squash plants than anything else, have a much harder time drilling into a butternut stem. That alone saves you from losing an entire crop. Run the numbers on that. Each plant gives you 4 to 6 fruits, 3 to 5 pounds each. The vines are compact enough for a raised bed if you trellis them vertically. You do not need a sprawling garden for this one. You planted tomatoes, zucchini, and butternut last May. October comes. The tomatoes are done. The zucchini rotted a month ago. But those butternuts? They are stacked in your closet, and you will still be eating them in February. So here is your move. Plant Waltham Butternut in full sun, zone 3 to 9. Space the hills 3 to 4 feet apart. It takes 85 to 100 days to maturity. Harvest when the stem turns brown and corky and the skin is uniformly tan. Press your fingernail into the rind. If it does not dent, it is ready. Cure for 10 to 14 days at 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit in the sun or a warm room. After that, store at 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Your kitchen counter works for 2 to 3 months. A cool basement stretches it to 6. While everything else in your garden has an expiration date, this one is just getting started. Number 5. Cayenne Peppers. One plant replaces every spice jar you buy. You know those little jars of red pepper flakes at the grocery store that somehow feel overpriced every time you buy one? One cayenne plant replaces all of them. For the whole year. And here is the number that changes everything. Cayenne long slim peppers have thin walls that air dry on their own. The compound that makes them hot, capsaicin, is also a natural antimicrobial. As your pepper dries, moisture drops and capsaicin concentration climbs. The pepper is preserving itself with its own heat. Whole dried cayennes keep 1 to 2 years in a glass jar. Crushed into flakes, 6 to 12 months at full potency. One plant puts out 30 to 50 peppers per season. That is more red pepper flakes than most households go through in 2 years. You pick them when they are fully red, thread a needle through the stems, and hang the string in a spot with good airflow. 2 to 4 weeks later, they are dry. Done when they snap, not bend. If you have ever paid grocery store spice prices for a tiny jar of red pepper flakes and thought, that feels wrong, you were right. Cayenne Long Slim grows in zone 5 to 11 and does well in a 5-gallon pot, so apartment gardeners are not left out. It takes 70 to 80 days from transplant to harvest. After drying, freeze the peppers for 48 hours to kill any hidden pests. Then jar them. Crush in a plastic bag with a rolling pin for flakes. Wear gloves. This is not universal. String drying works in dry climates. If you are in the humid southeast or the Pacific Northwest, mold will form inside the pepper before it dries. Use a dehydrator or your oven at the lowest setting instead. One plant, one string, 2 years of spice. And it costs nothing to preserve. But the next plant on this list does something no other vegetable can do. It uses the ground itself as a refrigerator, and the colder it gets, the better it tastes. Number 6. Hollow Crown Parsnips. The ground is the fridge, frost is the chef. Every preservation method you have ever learned fights against cold. Canning seals food from it. Freezing controls it. But this vegetable needs cold. The frost is the preservation. Parsnips store in the ground all winter. You cover the bed with 6 to 8 inches of straw mulch before the hard freeze hits, and you leave them there. When you want one, you dig it up. That is the entire method. You do not need a root cellar or any equipment at all. The cold is not the enemy here. A parsnip dug in January is noticeably sweeter than one dug in October. The Old Farmer's Almanac confirms that parsnips and carrots are sweetened by hard frost. You can taste it. When soil temperature drops, the parsnip senses it. The roots start converting stored starch into sugar as a natural antifreeze. The sugar lowers the freezing point inside the cells, keeping them from bursting. That is the plant protecting itself. And the byproduct of that self-defense is a sweeter, richer root for you. So wait for frost before you harvest. No one talks about this. Spring-dug parsnips survive under snow, under ice, through months of freezing temperatures. With a thick mulch, they hold down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. It is January. The garden is frozen. Nothing is growing. You walk out, pull back the straw, push a fork into the soil, and pull up a parsnip that has been sitting there since October. You rinse it off, roast it, and it is the sweetest thing you have eaten all winter. no canning, no freezer. The ground did everything. The variety to plant is Hollow Crown. Heirloom, proven, widely available. Zone 2 to 9. Sow in early spring as soon as you can work the soil. Seeds are slow, 2 to 3 weeks to germinate. Space 3 to 4 inches apart in rows 18 inches apart, then thin to 6 inches. It takes 100 to 120 days to mature, but do not harvest until after your first frost. Harvest through early spring. Buy fresh parsnip seed every year. Old seed germinates poorly. If you are in zone 2 or 3 where the ground freezes solid to 18 inches deep, this trick has limits. You will need to harvest before deep freeze or pile on 12 or more inches of mulch. The method works best in zones 4 through 8, where the ground freezes but not to bedrock. 0 electricity, 0 equipment, 0 effort. The ground does the work and the cold does the cooking. Number 7. Bolero Carrots. Bred to last, not to look pretty in a bag. Not all carrots are created equal. The ones at the store are bred to look pretty in a bag. This one is bred to last. Bolero is a Nantes-type carrot bred specifically for long storage. Where a regular Nantes carrot goes soft in 1 to 2 months, Bolero holds firm for 4 to 5 months in the right conditions. I lined up the top storage varieties and eliminated them one by one. Bolero kept coming out ahead for flavor, disease resistance, and shelf life. If your stored carrots always go limp by December, the problem is not how you stored them, it is what you planted. Cultivar choice matters more than storage method. Most people blame the technique when the real issue is the seed. You have 2 options. Leave Bolero in the ground under 6 to 8 inches of straw mulch, same method as parsnips, or dig them up. Brush off the soil without washing, and layer them in damp sand inside a tote or wooden box. Store that box at 32 to 38 degrees. A garage or unheated basement works. Check every 2 weeks and pull out any soft ones right away. Bolero grows in zone 3 to 10. Space seeds 2 to 3 inches apart, rows 12 inches apart. 70 to 75 days to maturity. Same effort to grow, twice the shelf life. The difference is the seed you pick. Number 8. Beauregard Sweet Potatoes. Cure in a week. Eat until spring. I put this one last because it might be the most complete package on this list. It feeds you, it stores itself, and the cost per pound will make you rethink your entire grocery budget. Sweet potatoes cure in 7 to 10 days at warm temperatures. After that, they store for 4 to 7 months at 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Alabama Cooperative Extension confirms that range for properly cured cultivars. Just a warm room and then a cool shelf. The cure is doing real work here. When you dig a sweet potato, the skin is thin and fragile. Every cut and scrape from harvest is an open wound. Curing heals those wounds. The warm, humid air triggers the potato to grow a second skin over every nick and scratch. Once that seal forms, the root locks in moisture and locks out rot. That thin new skin is the difference between a potato that lasts 2 weeks and one that lasts 6 months. So do not skip the cure. Of everything on this list, this is the one I would not skip. Beauregard is the most widely grown sweet potato in the country. High yield, reliable, excellent disease resistance. 10 slips produce 30 to 50 pounds. At store prices, that is serious money saved across half a year of eating. A family in Tennessee planted 25 slips of Beauregard in a 4x16 bed, harvested over 80 pounds, cured them in a spare bedroom. Ate sweet potatoes from October to March without buying a single one. Your backyard can do the same. The storage setup is simple. Plant Beauregard in zone 5 to 11, spacing 12 to 18 inches apart with rows 3 to 4 feet apart. 90 to 100 days to maturity. After harvest, cure in a warm room at 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit with high humidity for 7 to 10 days. A bathroom with a space heater and a damp towel works. Then wrap each potato in newspaper, place in a cardboard box, and store at 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Do not wash before storing. Do not refrigerate. Cold damages sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes need heat. If you are in Zone 5 or colder, your growing season may not be long enough without raised beds and black plastic. And curing requires a warm, humid space for 10 days. If your house runs cold in fall, plan ahead. Grow it in summer, cure it in a week, eat it until spring. That is a vegetable that earns its space. So that is the list. Blue Hubbard, 5 to 6 months on a shelf, and it gets sweeter with time. Black turtle beans, dried on the vine and stored for years in a jar. Garlic that replants itself and lasts almost a full year. Butternut, the compact storage squash that fits any garden. Cayenne, one plant for 2 years of spice. Parsnips, stored for free in the frozen ground. Bolero Carrots, bred to outlast anything else in the root cellar. And Beauregard Sweet Potatoes, cured in a week and good until spring. Every one of these skips the canner, skips the freezer, and skips the weekend you are going to spend on preservation. The smartest way to preserve food is to grow food that does not need preserving. That is not lazy gardening. That is the whole point. Tell me in the comments which one you are planting first this spring. And if you are already growing any of them, I want to hear how long yours actually lasted in storage. And if you know someone who dreads canning season, who fills their cart with jars and lids every August and spends every weekend boiling and sealing, send them this video. No message, just the link. This might save them 100 hours next year.